Well, the times now with a lack of sporting events that's really given me more time to chat with Golden Knights players, NBA players, and multiple UFC fighters. It's also freed me up to catch up with some of the fellow members of the sports media here in Las Vegas. Today is a special day, folks, because I get to catch up with a couple of guys who are the trailblazers in covering mixed martial arts internationally and, more importantly, here in Las Vegas. I'm talking about the gents of MMA Junkie Radio. I'm talking about the brothers, gorgeous George Garcia and Bryan, spells his name wrong, Goze Garcia of MMA Junkie. What's going on, guys? How you doing?
How you doing, Bryan?
What's up, Bryan?
I'm doing all right. You know what? Let's go ahead and get right to it, man. UFC 249, Khabib, Tony Ferguson. First off, we'll start with age before beauty. George, do you think that this is actually going to happen?
No, and I'll tell you why, because I think we were all kind of making an exception for Khabib versus Tony. This fight was supposed to be done 5 different occasions, and it's fallen apart. Everybody's saying it's jinx. I don't believe in jinxes, but whatever. That's what they're saying, and it's what's happened. And now with Khabib being stuck in Russia, and now Russia imposing, the travel restrictions, I just don't see it happening. I mean, I know Dana White wants to give us something, and I can appreciate that. But it's not going to be Tony versus Khabib. I suppose he could throw some other all-stars in there and give us something, but then that wouldn't be – I mean, I guess it would still be technically UFC 249, but it just seems like too much keeps happening every day, Bryan. I don't see it, man.
Yeah, no, I hear. I talked with Francis Ngannou last week, and he's like, man, this fight kept getting canceled. He wants to see it. Bryan, what do you think about this, Goze?
I think it is going to happen.
I
can't tell you where or how. It doesn't seem like that main event is going to be put together, but I think something will. When Dana White puts his mind to something and he's really just put himself out there and pushed so hard to make this happen, that I think somehow, some way, he's going to find a way to pull this off. The question is at what expense? This is the only sport that's actually trying to do this right now. And I just hope that if they do pull it off, that they take the fighter safety in consideration, staff safety, and hope we can get somewhat of a true representation of these fighters, because they're doing these fights with limited camp resources. If you're going to see Khabib and Tony Ferguson, you want to know that you're getting the best Tony and the best Khabib. And I don't know if this situation allows that to happen.
No, that's a very good point. How about this, though, George? The fact that you alluded to it a moment ago, Dana White really doing his best to try to make this fight happen. What do you think about Dana? I mean, obviously, we all know that Dana is a workaholic, and he doesn't care what anyone – if someone tells him he can't do something, that just makes him try harder in order to do it. And he's being the only sports company in the world, for the most part, trying to function right now. What do you think about that?
I mean, like I said, I appreciate the hustle, Bryan. And look, make no mistake, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. Our best ratings, obviously, our most downloads and things like that on Junkie Radio, hits and traffic on MMA Junkie, the website, it comes when we're talking about X's and O's, competition, previewing fights, recapping fights. So, of course, I want it. But at the same time, this COVID-19 pandemic we're in is serious stuff. There's travel bans from different countries, so right away you limit the roster. And then even amongst the states, things are changing. Don't forget, guys, this is still 19 days away. Go back 19 days and see how we were covering coronavirus. I think a lot of people were still thinking it was the flu back then, and look how serious it is. That's why forecasting ahead, it just doesn't look good. But I'm clearly stating, if it happens, popcorn and a beer for me. I'll enjoy it.
Oh, you'll enjoy it. And Goze, you kind of talked about this a second ago with Dana trying his hardest. For you guys on the radio, has it made it more easy to get fighters since guys really don't have anything to do to kind of talk about whatever? Or how's it been for you guys trying to book people to come on MMA Junkie Radio?
It seems like right now fighters have a lot of time on their hands, so they're the ones that really reach out and they want to talk right now. The only difficulty is we're not the only outlet out there, so they want to talk to everyone, and so
yes, you are.
Come up with we just have to come up with interesting angles, things that people forget about. Today we spoke to Bruce Buffer, and you want to know, well, Joe Rogan isn't gonna want to go and travel if this fight does happen, but Bruce Buffer said he would. So different angles like that, but it hasn't been as tough because there's so many fighters at home that they want to talk. They don't have much to do.
How about this news, George? Jon Jones arrested again, really again. What were your thoughts on that and the fact that, I mean, is Jon Jones ever going to get out of his own way?
Whew, it caught me off guard, and then it started to settle in as I was reading the details. Within 10 or 15 seconds, I wasn't surprised that I was reading this because he can't stay. He's his own worst enemy. He can't stay out of his own way. It's just that, Brian, let me tell you something. In the last 18 months, he was frequently fighting. He was showing some maturity, and I just thought that he had turned a corner. But now all of a sudden I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking, could this be like when I was growing up, Doc Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, Lenny Dykstra with the gambling? Everybody has these vices they just can't seem to overcome. And Jon Jones might be, that version for us in our sport. Now, that said, if I may say something, I scanned MMA Junkie just right before we came on, and it looks like he's already avoided jail. He has pled guilty to DWI. He's going to avoid jail time. And I have some details if you want me to share, but at least you know that he's not going to be, behind some bars. Okay, well, basically he was charged with aggravated DWI, negligent use of a firearm, a possession of an open container, and proof of no insurance. And so what he was able to do is by pleading guilty, 96 hours of community custody, which is house arrest, 1 year of supervised probation, a minimum of 90 days outpatient therapy, which will be conducted via video conferencing due to COVID-19, and 48 hours worth of community service. So honestly, guys, considering what happened, wow, I think he should be tickled to death.
Yeah. Goze, how about the fact that Daniel Cormier actually felt sorry for him? Did you see the interview with him and Ariel? He's like, you know what? I'm not going to dance on his grave right now. I almost feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the type of guy that Daniel Cormier is. You know, when you look through the history of the sport and you see a lot of the champions, George St. Pierre is another guy that kind of conducted himself that way. Daniel Cormier is one of those guys that he's been a good guy since the beginning. And for his biggest rival, a guy that at times has stolen Daniel's soul, to be able to say those type of words really shows a lot about his character.
I completely agree with that. Now, how about this? George, I know that you've been to Brazil. We talked about you going down there and having a good time and whatnot. How about that fight that they had down there, the fight night with no one in the crowd? Obviously, you watched it and saw it. I mean, how eerie was that? How weird was that?
It kind of reminded me of The Ultimate Fighter, except that, with The Ultimate Fighter, you turn off the TV and you can go about your business and everything's normal. So for that isolated piece of 15 minutes, whatever the fight is, it is different, but you get to enjoy it. And so I did enjoy the Brasilia card because there was nothing else going on, and sports is my life, Brian. So that part of me, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I was just praying for everybody to get home safely, but it's not the same, man. You really do need the crowd, the roar of the crowd and everything. So I was happy to see it, but I want us to get back to our regular, the regular way of doing things.
Yeah, and speaking of a regular routine and a regular way of doing things, did you, obviously, I know you saw this. Please tell me you were in the building. I don't remember seeing you there, though, for the Weili Zhang, Joanna Jedrzejczyk fight. I mean, to me, that was one of the best fights I've seen live, and I really can't remember a fight that topped that one. To get back to fights like that, what did you think about that fight, a month ago?
Oh, it was insane. And unfortunately, I wasn't in the building that night. George and I were doing an alternative sportscaster broadcast. But we actually did go back and watch it together and score each round and really, really just try and turn off what we were hearing from the announcers and all that. And that fight, to this day, I mean, I bet you I could watch it again right now and have another person winning that fight. It's just that type of fight. It reminded me a lot of, in boxing, Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. There's throughout the years, I think people have flip-flopped going back and forth watching that fight. And really, it's one of those fights where I feel like there's almost no wrong answer. But those two women put on a hell of a show, and it's something that is going to stay in the record books. I think it's going to create a lot of new fighters. I think you're going to have these new fighters that come along years from now, and they're going to talk about that day when they were sitting in their living room and they watched those two fighters go, and that's what brought them to the sport.
Yeah, that was a great fight. And I got to say, I've watched Hagler and did you say Leonard goes? 10 times. Leonard won that. All right. Enough with the 50,
I don't know, man. I can go with Sugar Ray Leonard on that, but go ahead.
Yeah, Leonard won that fight.
I agree. I agree. But no, go ahead, George. You're on a roll. I just had to throw that in there.
With Zhang and Joanna, it was an awesome fight. A lot of people were like, greatest WMMA fight ever. I was just like, no, it's one of the greatest MMA fights ever.
Period.
For sure, title fight, WMMA fight, strawweight, whatever classification you want to give it, any distinction, it fits right there. It was awesome. They went toe to toe. Goze is correct. We went back. We've done it with the volume off. We've done it without checking in every round and looked at it many different ways. And it was a tough fight to score. But, we have 3 judges, not 1. And that's the agreement they came to. And luckily, no one's really made too much of a mess of it. I think the rematch sells itself without there having to be a controversy of any form of a robbery. So that's good news. I just wanted both ladies to get back, to get to the hospital, get the stitching done, do what they need to do, rest up, and hopefully they get a big old fat bonus check, for that to reward them because they really laid it all out on the line.
Yeah, I think like a double bonus check for that one is in order for sure. So with that being
Zhang is still in Las Vegas because she's, I guess we can call it trapped here. She's stuck here. She can't even fly back to China. Can you believe that, guys?
I didn't realize that.
Almost a month out, and remember all the problems she had before then.
Yes.
Just get home and be with her family. She can't.
That's right. I mean, she went from, I think it was from China to Taiwan to Abu Dhabi to the United States, right?
Yeah, Thailand and then Abu Dhabi and then the United States. And she's been here as of about 2 days ago. I thought I heard that. She's still here in Las Vegas, just awaiting the opportunity to fly back to China.
Wow, that's bananas. Oh, hold on. And with that being said, you guys scored the fight. Goze, who did you have winning it?
I ended up going with Joanna Jedrzejczyk. I gave her 3 rounds to 2. And it was funny because for as long as we've been doing this and how many fights we've seen, the guy sitting right next to me, George, he had it going the other way. And we really couldn't look at each other and tell each other, you're crazy. I mean, it was just that close of a fight.
Yeah, no, I agree. And George, you already said he had it going the other way. But did you, by any chance, when you went back and watched it, maybe, you know what, this round 2 I can give to Weili Zhang, or the round 2 I can give to Jedrzejczyk when you went back?
Yeah, I can concede that stuff because I always think of the lenses of the judges that are watching. A Muay Thai judge will probably score differently than a judge that has a wrestling background. Some might give a little bit more credit to that one takedown that might have made a difference. Some might have more of an appreciation for some elbows, some techniques coming from there. So that's the wild card aspect to MMA is just the judging itself. When it's a close round, anything can happen.
Gotcha. All right, a couple more things we can get up out of here. First, how are you guys surviving the coronavirus pandemic and basically the self-isolation right now? I mean, are you guys doing your show from home now, I'm assuming, just because obviously you can't go down to Mandalay Bay?
Yeah, so basically what we actually got a little lucky because maybe about a couple months before all this went down, we were in the process of building a home studio because we've been doing a lot more video work and stuff like that, more reaction videos. So we were literally just finishing that up the week that they announced that, the MGM properties were going to close. So we had enough time to take some of the stuff from our studio at Mandalay Bay and bring it home. And we've been doing our show from home and some video work from home. So it's worked out. It's definitely very different for us because we like having the fighters right there, right in front of us. We like to frequent the gyms and talk to them face to face. But we're getting by.
Gotcha. I got you. Hey, George, how are you getting by, man?
I was just telling some buddies that when I walk the dog around the neighborhood, it feels so good soaking up the sun and seeing the clear skies. So I don't feel like somebody who's trapped per se, but I am appreciating that hour I get in the outdoors. So I can't wait for things to get back to normal. But I'm holding strong, Brian. I'm trying to do my part. My part is to stay in and be safe and wash my hands and you know what I mean? And preach. I'm doing a little preaching on social media, just trying to give somebody a nudge. Anybody that's not taking coronavirus serious, it's serious.
I got you. I can appreciate that. And lastly, to get out of here, I wonder, whom do you have as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now? Goze, you get to go first this time.
Well, it can be very controversial because really the guy that's at the top, a lot of people would say is Jon Jones, and unfortunately he's going through things right now. And depending on how you look at those type of things. Some of his past, it's very difficult. But how do you argue a guy that's just been virtually unstoppable? He's pretty much the pound for pound king. But I will tell you this: keep an eye on Henry Cejudo, because
Whoa.
that guy is going to be able to accomplish something that's even bigger, and that would just be the pound for pound, just combat sports athlete. Because when you throw in an Olympic gold medal, 2 UFC belts, that is very, very hard to dispute. And all he needs is just a couple more fights, and I think he'll be that guy that we're going to be talking about.
That's a very good point. Very good point. How about
And
you,
for me,
gorgeous?
it's like a 2-horse race with Jones and Habib. It all just depends on when you ask me. When Jones was kind of serving his suspensions out for his USADA troubles, Habib had come right through. He became a champion. Now he's got a couple title defenses and that shiny undefeated record. And Jones is undefeated. Don't get me wrong. He's
Yeah,
got
he
that
is.
little blip, which
Yeah.
was a disqualification. I get that. But Jones has also gone through long spells of time where he hasn't fought. And so has Habib. All right. So they kind of just charging back and forth. Jones made a little move on Habib when he had, 3 fights in about 1 year, but now Habib, who could be scoring some points and getting right back to the top, if you want to put him to the top, he's going to lose out on that because he's not fighting at UFC 249. Now, like Goze said, Jones isn't going to be fighting anytime soon either. So it all just depends on when you catch somebody. But it seems like those two at this moment are the best pound-for-pound fighters on the planet.
Cool. My guys, I really appreciate it again. Bryan Goze Garcia and gorgeous George Garcia from MMA Junkie. Thank you very much for joining me here tonight, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
I'll be on here with you. We've
Cool.
known you quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it's fun to finally reconnect like this.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.